Why you keep falling for the same type of person. Jungian pattern, you already know their voice before they speak. The tone is familiar, like a childhood hallway you haven't walked in years. The details change, different city, different haircut, different vocabulary, but the feeling is eerily the same. An electric certainty, a fragrance of rescue and risk. You tell yourself this time is different. And then, like a story that insists on its ending, you discover you've been here before. How does the heart keep finding the same shape, wearing different faces? Who keeps dialing this number from inside you? Jung warned that what we call fate often begins as a whisper from the unconscious. We step into a room and mistake our own projection for destiny. We think we've met a person. In truth, we've collided with a pattern. The pattern speaks in symbols, not sentences. It delivers a script into your mouth, a choreography into your muscles. Your eyes slide over a dozen decent choices and lock, as if magnetized, onto the one who can complete an unfinished argument from years ago. The mind narrates a romance. The body remembers a debt. Admit it, your type is a story already in progress. Sometimes the story is titled, I Can Fix You. Sometimes it's titled, Please Save Me. Sometimes it's the chase. Sometimes the cathedral of contempt. Sometimes a museum of apologies. You don't browse. You recognize. The recognition is not about the person in front of you. It is about a template burned invisibly into the nervous system, an outline that the unconscious keeps filling with new ink. You call this chemistry. Chemistry has a basement. Look at the photographs that make you wince. Notice how your exes, placed in a line, look like family reunions. Not necessarily in face, but in pattern. The same distance you tried to bridge. The same spark that kept outrunning your hand. The same arguments looping like weather. The identical way you became the worst version of yourself in their presence. Between you and them hangs a tapestry embroidered with a childhood crest. The way love felt when you were too small to bargain. That crest has rules. You follow them without looking. There is an explanation that wounds and relieves at once. Your type is not primarily a preference. It is a complex. In Jung's world, a complex is a living knot of memory and meaning, partly conscious, partly not, full of feeling, wearing the mask of the present while secretly obeying the past. Complexes are not mistakes. They are adaptations with momentum. They keep you safe until they keep you stuck. They carry the faces of your first gods, whoever taught you what love costs and what it buys. Later, on a date, you meet them again. Why is the recognition so intoxicating? Because the complex promises that this time the ending will change. The psyche is a dramatist hungry for completion. It uses attraction as bait to revisit the old scene with new props. Maybe if I can finally make the distant one choose me, I will be cured of distance. Maybe if I can rescue the chaotic, I will prove that chaos is not stronger than love. Maybe if I can endure the tyrant without breaking, I will no longer be breakable. The logic is elegant and cruel. Reenact to repair. Meanwhile, the present person becomes a stage for ancient ghosts. You don't have to believe in Jung to recognize the force. Think of the moment your stomach drops in an argument, not because of the words, but because the temperature of the room has become a perfect replica of another room you swore you'd never return to. Think of the alarm that does not match the small offense in front of you. Think of the trance of infatuation that makes time strange, that puts a spotlight on one person in a crowd and wraps them in the story color of fate. That spotlight is powered by something older than taste. We like to flatter ourselves with self-knowledge. I go for artists. I go for leaders. I go for real men. I go for independent women. Preferences make neat sentences. Complexes make weather. Weather has a smell. You smell it when you walk into a party, and your chest either loosens or tightens without anyone having spoken to you. The body knows what kind of intimacy you believe you deserve, and it begins choosing before the mind arrives. If you have spent years calling chaos passion, stillness will feel like a trick. If you have learned to mistake unpredictability for depth, steadiness will look like a mask. The pattern edits your perception. Here's the first forbidden truth. You do not choose your type in the present tense. Your type chooses you via the accumulated results of what you needed to survive. If need taught you to disappear, you will be drawn to people who require disappearing. If need taught you to be loud so someone would notice, you will magnetize those who feel alive only around sirens. If need taught you that love is earned by patching holes, you will call holes interesting. The unconscious has your number. It will keep calling until you answer differently. Jung had a name for the inner opposite that we keep trying to meet outside. Anima and Animus, the feminine image in a man's psyche, the masculine image in a woman's psyche, although the words flex beyond gender now. These inner figures are not mere fantasies. They are corridors to capacities we haven't yet lived. We project them onto others and fall in love with what is actually an unlived part of ourselves. We marry the stranger because we are seeking the buried citizen within. This is romantic and dangerous. The projection lends a halo and hides a blade. You see your soul. You miss their habits. Before we accuse the heart of foolishness, listen. Projection is not sin. It is a bridge. Without it, we might never risk intimacy. We throw our inner images onto the canvas of another because some meeting must begin. The trouble starts when we refuse to reel the projection back and see the person as they are. We become disappointed by our own dream and punish a partner for not being a figment. We turn love into a trial where nobody can pass. Meanwhile, the pattern chuckles and chalks up another repetition. There is a darker operator behind the scenes. What Freud called repetition compulsion, and what Jung watched with a kind of spiritual sympathy. The psyche repeats an injury not to suffer, but to solve. It's as if your inner court keeps reopening the case, because the verdict never altered the law. So you choose another judge who looks like father, another jury who sounds like mother, another lawyer with your childhood voice, and you try again to win the trial where you are pronounced too much or not enough. You call it dating. The complex calls it court. Look at myth for a map. Orpheus turns around at the threshold of daylight and loses the beloved he rescued. How many times have you turned back to check whether love is still there and scared it away? Narcissus falls in love with his reflection, mistaking it for another. How many times has your type been your own missing quality, adored in the wrong place? Psyche lights a lamp to see the face she loves and burns him with the oil. How many times has curiosity mixed with fear and made intimacy run? The ancients wrote your dating history in ink that doesn't fade. Listen closely to the disquiet beneath the chase. Your type is a promise that you can go home again and make the fireplace burn the way it should have. But home is a memory, edited to save you. The fireplace was sometimes cold. The promises were sometimes conditional. The door didn't always stay open. To break a pattern, you will have to betray a version of home that hurt you less than the truth. This betrayal feels like treason for a while. Later, It will feel like fidelity to the part of you that waited by a window too long. So here we are at the edge of the labyrinth, thread in hand. What is real, and what is projection? What is taste, and what is the hunger of a complex hunting its dessert? You keep falling for the same type because you're trying to finish a chapter with the wrong pen. You keep falling for the same type because the part of you that never got chosen is still sending out invitations in other people's names. And yet, the pattern is not your enemy. It's a messenger with rough manners. It brings you back to the place you need to renovate. We just have to learn how not to mistake the messenger for a fate we cannot refuse. The pattern is patient. It does not knock like thunder. It slips in through the door marked "Just My Luck." Then it lays out familiar ornaments. The intoxicating first week, the reverent attention to your wounds, the mysterious contradictions that you rationalize away with poetry. If your type is distance, the distance arrives disguised as depth enigmatic texts, long looks across crowded rooms, the promise of a someday that keeps you buying tickets. If your type is domination, the domination first looks like certainty, someone unbothered by the fog where you stumble. If your type is chaos, chaos arrives in costume as spontaneity, that glittering coin, and you pay for dinner with your sleep. Meanwhile, your own machinery warms to its task. The rescuer rolls up their sleeves. The performer memorizes the lines. The pleaser polishes the table. The avoider surveys the exits and translates intimacy into threat. 100 micro-choices align into a fate. You laugh at what hurts. You hide what alarms. You swallow rather than speak because you learned early that honesty detonates. Or you confront at every flicker because you learned silence is a killer. No demon required. Just an ecosystem reenacting weather. Jung thought of the complex as a little personality inside the personality semi-autonomous, tied to a theme, borrowing energy whenever life activates its topic. When a love complex is touched, you don't only feel, you become a chorus. The teenager who waited by the phone takes the stage. The child who managed the parent who couldn't manage themselves grabs the microphone. The protector ushers the adult to the back row and says, "I know how this goes. Let me drive." You call the surge truth. It might be memory with perfect makeup. History is a library of patterns and costume. Henry VIII married the same dilemma 6 times, the fantasy that someone else's devotion could quiet the storm he had no intention of facing within. Ancient kings mistook conquest for security, then conquered again when emptiness returned. Empires fall for a type 2, the intoxicating belief that they are chosen to govern reality, and reality answers with the bill. We do this at the scale of a household. We crown a partner with the scepter of our unfinished business and ask them to rule what only we can soberly tend. There is a sacredness to the chaos we court. Jung would not have you shame it. The unconscious is not a fool. It can be clumsy, but it's often precise in its teaching. Attraction wakes us to parts of ourselves we have kept in the basement. The aloof lover calls forth your assertiveness, if you let it. The controlling partner invites your boundary to grow teeth. The dramatic one forces you to choose a quiet that can withstand storms. In this sense, your type is an assignment. But an assignment is not a sentence. It becomes a sentence when you refuse to question the trance. You ignore timing, speed, and silence. You outsource discernment to chemistry, and chemistry reports to the oldest boss. You call your friend who speaks gently and say, "You don't get it, we have a connection." And they say, "So does a plug have a connection to a socket?" Not every connection is safe. You stop hearing friends after the second act. The body wants its familiar feast. The mind writes an alibi. The soul watches, hoping for a different ending and bracing for the same. Let's name a few of the recurring actors so you can see them entering the scene. There is the phantom, the person who can be brilliant and tender in private, but evaporates when commitment appears. They are a cathedral of almost. If the phantom is your drug, learn what almost helped you believe love was safer than yes. There is the monarch, whose certainty steadies your shaking until it becomes your jail. If the monarch is irresistible, ask where your own authority went missing and why you rented it out. There is the drowning poet, whose storms give meaning to your rescue fantasies. If you always grab a life raft for them, ask what it would mean to let someone else float and save yourself first without calling it cold. There is also you in reverse. Perhaps you are someone else's type. To the anxious, your inconsistency is a high. To the controlling, your passivity is permission. To the rescuer, your newest crisis is a job posting. Being someone's pattern feels like being adored. It's also a kind of possession. If you have ever felt a partner's eyes change when you harmed their script, you know how little individuality matters in the presence of a powerful projection. They loved a role. You lost the role. Now they must either meet you or find another actor. Psychology has a theater vocabulary for this: transference and countertransference. You transfer old feelings to a new figure. They transfer theirs to you. Two childhoods negotiate a treaty in a restaurant. If you're lucky, an adult shows up to translate. If you're unlucky, you call the reenactment reality and accuse anyone who points at the stage lights of cynicism. Jung was not moralistic about this. He saw it as a bridge that must eventually become a road. We meet through projections. We stay by withdrawing them. If everything is a projection, you might ask, is anything real? Yes, the human in front of you is real. Their habits are real. Their values are not figments. Their capacity to repair after rupture is not an archetype. It's a practice skill. Reality is the rhythm of how they return after conflict, the way they hold responsibility when they hurt you, the extent to which their words match behavior over time. Projection gives you the opening night. Reality writes the play beyond the first act. The problem with types is that we keep leaving at intermission to chase another opening night. Under all this choreography lives a simpler heartbeat, the fear of being alone with what the pattern protects you from. Distance protects you from engulfment. Control protects you from rejection. Chaos protects you from boredom, which is just another word for the absence of crisis, which is just another way of saying you might have to meet your own life without adrenaline. Your type is a tool. The question is whether the tool still builds or only keeps you busy. Now the suspense tightens. How do you stop being hypnotized by this old magnet? You do not lecture yourself out of it. You cannot talk a complex into retirement with logic. It does not speak that tone. You must alter the conditions under which it is the only answer. You must grow capacities that make new sorts of chemistry possible. You must create, within yourself, a room where the part of you that once needed chaos can rest without losing its reasons. You must inherit your own authority, so the monarch becomes a person instead of a parent. You must learn to let warmth be interesting. Before that, you must endure a brief famine. The old flavor will call you in dreams and in sudden songs. Loneliness will dress as wisdom and declare that intensity is authenticity. Your body will itch for a text from the very person you blocked for your sanity. This is where you decide whether your future is allowed to look boring while it changes shape. Boring is the slur we use for safety when safety is new. Wait until your nervous system recalibrates. Wait until quiet reveals its colors. Then watch who becomes visible that you previously walked past because they didn't have a siren. You may wonder why the pattern survives even when you know all this. Because knowledge is not yet integration. In Jung's tongue, ideas belong to the head. Transformation requires contact with the unconscious. That means dreams, fantasies, slips, symptoms, those inconvenient notes the psyche writes in the margins. You are not only your biography, you are also myth and instinct and ancestral wind. The pattern plugs into these sources. To unplug, you will need a ritual stronger than a resolution. You will need to meet the inner figures you keep outsourcing to lovers. You will need to sit in the company of the one you ask others to host. Here is the pivot that makes some people want to throw the book and others sit up straighter. The person you keep chasing is an emissary from within. The anima or animus you project is not a fantasy lover. It is an image of your missing function, a capacity you have starved or exiled, the distant partner who dazzles you with their self-possession. Perhaps they carry your abandoned sovereignty, the chaotic charmer whose spontaneity turns the air gold. Perhaps they wear your neglected instinct to play, the hyper-competent commander who clears a room with a decision. Perhaps they represent your own spawn, which you outsourced because it scared your first gods. If you take this seriously, the romance changes species. Attraction becomes a compass. The question shifts from how do I get them to what part of me is trying to come home through them. The blush of infatuation becomes data. You can still love a person, but the love begins to include the labor of withdrawing the projection and asking them to step off the altar. The deity comes down, a human remains. Sometimes they match. Often they don't. When they don't, the point was never to have them. The point was to reclaim the part of you they mirrored. Jung saw anima and animus as bridges to the self-organizing center of the psyche, the wholeness that the ego orbits without owning. When the bridge is projected, it lights up another person's outline. When the bridge is retracted, it draws you inward toward your own fire. Lovers who can survive this transition become partners because the worship ends and the work begins. Lovers who cannot survive it become stories, sometimes necessary ones, sometimes cautionary tales framed with exquisite playlists. Another figure stalks the edges, the shadow. The shadow is whatever you refuse to be, for good reasons or bad. If you were punished for anger, your shadow keeps the blade while you polish kindness until it bleeds. If you were shamed for need, your shadow hoards desire in a basement and comes out at night to make choices that confuse you by daylight. Partners arrive carrying your shadow like a suitcase you hate to see. You call them toxic. Sometimes they are. Sometimes they are simply the courier of what you swore you'd never touch. You attack in them what you crave and fear in yourself. Here's the unsettling evidence. The traits you protest most violently in a partner are often the ones you have not made a place for in your own home. This does not mean you should tolerate harm. It means your disgust can be a map. If you despise neediness, find the child in you who learned that to ask was to be humiliated. If you cannot bear dominance, locate the voice in you that was told it had no right to exist and watch it come back angrier than justice. If you idolize cool indifference, ask which of your feelings you learned to mock. This is not romance. This is the alchemy that keeps romance from turning into war. Let us tilt the lens further. Jung spent a lifetime with alchemy, not for the gold, but for the metaphors. Jungian, the sacred union, is not only the marriage between two people, it is the union of opposites inside one person. Your type is the psyche's attempt to outsource Jungian, to make someone else hold the opposite you won't host. You try to marry your courage outside because you are afraid to marry it inside and disrupt the peace built on pleasing. You try to marry your softness outside because you are afraid to host it inside and lose a protective hardness that kept you alive. Outsourcing fails gracefully or badly. Integration is a mess worth making. History nods. The troubadour tradition raised distant, unattainable women into ladders for male spiritual development. The woman became a cathedral. The man prayed beneath her stained glass and called the light holiness. Jung would have said, "The light is yours. Stop worshiping your projection. Stop punishing the saint for not being God. Thank the cathedral. Go home and build a small chapel where you can meet the same light without asking anyone else to hold it still for you." This is why types relax as you develop neglected functions. If you never allowed yourself to assert, you will chase decisive lovers and pay with your voice. Train your assertiveness, and you will still admire decisiveness, but it will no longer hypnotize you. If you never allowed yourself to rest, you will pursue the avoidant and call their lack of availability mysterious. Learn to rest, and the avoidant becomes less magical. Their silence is simply silence, not a promised land. As functions are reclaimed, projections dim. People shrink to human size. Choices get weirdly easier. The drama lowers its volume. At first, you will grieve the symphony. Then you will notice you can hear yourself think. Jung's tool for this inner conversation was not lectures, but images. He practiced what he called active imagination, sitting quietly, inviting the inner figures to speak, drawing, writing, dialoguing, allowing the psyche to present its theater without censorship. Meet your inner rescuer and ask why they are always on call. Meet your inner tyrant and ask what disaster they prevent at any cost. Meet the child who freezes when a certain tone enters a room. These are not fantasies. They are real energies with names that keep stealing your phone to text your ex. If you don't meet them, they will meet others for you. Some people recoil at this interiority. Isn't it indulgent? Shouldn't we just choose differently? Choice is real, but choice is leverage. You need a fulcrum. Without inner contact, you will keep pushing the same boulder up the same hill with the same result. With inner contact, the hill moves a little. You realize that the beloved was a map. You realize that the sensation of home around someone might signal the proximity of an old wound rather than the beauty of destiny. You learn to pause when you feel most certain. You learn to breathe when you feel least safe. You learn to ask questions your pattern hates. How do they repair? What do they do when I say no? Do I like who I am around them? Strangely, as you withdraw the projection, tenderness increases. You begin to see the person as they are, scared sometimes, brave sometimes, petty on Mondays, magnificent on Thursday afternoons, not a symbol, but a weather system. You fall in love with specifics, the way they butter toast, the way they mispronounce a word and laugh, the way their honesty makes a room safer even when it stings. Symbolic love is fireworks. Human love is a hearth. The pattern taught you to chase the sky. The psyche asks whether you will learn to tend a fire that stays. None of this guarantees safety. We do not control the people we love. we barely control ourselves. Jung did not promise happy endings. He offered meaningful middles. He suggested that when the unconscious is respected, it becomes less tricky. When the projection is honored and then reclaimed, the other is freed from being your symptom and allowed to be your companion. And when you are tempted into your type again, as you will be, you will recognize the sense sooner. You will bless the messenger and let them pass, or you will enter knowingly, without illusions, prepared for the work rather than the rescue. Now come the costs, which are the same as the gifts in a different light. To break a pattern, you must break a rhythm your nervous system calls safe. Safety, in this laboratory, might mean familiar misery over unfamiliar peace. You will grieve both the people and the identities that kept them in orbit. Who are you if you are not the fixer? Who are you if you are not the chaste? Who are you if you do not earn love by anticipating a need? You will feel briefly homeless because the house you built was furnished by the pattern, and you are giving the furniture away. There is a day when you will sit with a healthy person and feel bored. Do not panic. Bored is the word trauma uses for quiet before it learns the other words: ease, calm, untheatrical joy. Stay long enough to notice other forms of intensity. The intensity of being known without performing. The intensity of laughter that arrives without cost. The intensity of conflict that repairs instead of curls. Your body needs repetition to trust this. Give it gentle proof. The old way had plenty of proof of pain. There is also a day when you will sit alone, the phone screen black, and no one is coming to provide a cliffhanger. This is when the old self whispers, "See? You are unlovable without chaos." This is when we need history. Think of the monks and anchorites who turned away from spectacle to find a different fire. Think of the alchemists who labored in their little rooms for years to coax change out of stubborn matter. Think of the freedom fighter writing letters that might never be read, staying faithful to a future they would not see. They trained endurance without applause. You are training a quieter fidelity to reality, to yourself, to love without sirens. To make this less ghostly, create rituals that interrupt the trance. Build a date with yourself where you practice bearing good things without suspicion. Eat a meal slowly with no screen and notice the civilian pleasure of not rushing. Call a friend before the emergency to practice asking without panic. Name a boundary in a low-stakes place, a coffee order corrected, a schedule protected, so your mouth learns that no is not a nuclear blast. Keep paper by your bed and record the dreams that circle your pattern. The dream where you keep missing a train? The psyche hinting that you cannot catch what is not for you. The dream where a familiar house gains a new room? The psyche offering space you didn't believe existed. You will also confront guilt disguised as nobility. The rescuer will say, "If I do not help, I am cold." The truth is warmer. If you help beyond your capacity, you're not rescuing. You're arranging a dependency. The pleaser will say, "If I disappoint, I am cruel." The truth sets a table. Disappointment is the price of honesty. Cruelty is the price of false agreement. The controller will say, "If I don't steer, we'll crash." The truth is humbler. You can keep your lane. The weather has its own vote. This is advanced citizenship in your own life. You will not graduate. You will practice. Sometimes the bravest act is to leave the person who fits your favorite wound. Not because they are bad, but because together you are an orchestra playing a tragedy with tremendous skill. You can love someone and know that your love is a bridge to a childhood shore you cannot live on anymore. You can forgive someone and refuse to try the experiment again. You can bless what you learned and build a boundary that does not call itself a wall. Language matters. A boundary says, "Here is what I will do and won't." A wall says, "No more world." We need the world. We just don't need to reenact the worst of it at home. Sometimes the bravest act is to stay with a good person when the old panic tries to invent a crisis. Your hands will itch to pick a fight, to test love until it breaks, to simulate the conditions that made you feel alive in other relationships. You will want to throw gasoline on a quiet fire because you are addicted to smoke. Breathe. Do nothing for 10 minutes. Often the storm was your old weather trying to roll in. When it clears on its own, you will feel a victory that nobody taught you to name. As you change, your circle might reconfigure. People who loved your availability will mourn your boundaries. People who admired your intensity will misread your steadiness as dullness. People who benefited from your fog will be threatened by your clarity. You will be accused of becoming selfish. Sometimes you will be. That's how pendulums find center. You will apologize where you must. You will not apologize for no longer drowning. And then there is the inner child, not a metaphor, an actual subsystem in your nervous system that needs to hear sentences no lover can say convincingly enough. I will not abandon you to impress someone new. I will not let you stay in rooms that calcify your neck. I will not trade your sleep for a text. I will not sell your tears for a story. I will be boring when boring keeps you safe, and I will be wild when wild belongs to joy. This vow sounds sentimental until you keep it during a midnight replay of a golden past. It becomes a technology then. A grief does not end. It changes flavor. You grieve the abandoned dream that a certain kind of lover would finally be the cure. You grieve the younger you who needed that dream to survive. You grieve the hours like coins you spent in the slot machine of maybe. Then a surprising feeling arrives, something like gratitude for the pattern that kept bringing you to the door of a room you finally entered. The room is not bliss. The room is a table and 2 chairs. One of the chairs is for you. The other is for whoever shows up without your ghost's invitation. Stand at the threshold of your next choice and listen for the smallest sound. Not the drum of urgency, the small sound. The breath that says, I don't want to perform today. The tug that says, I don't want to parent this person. The curiosity that says, I want to meet someone steady even if my stomach doesn't lurch. The respect that says, I want to like who I am in their presence more than I want fireworks. The whisper is the new compass. It speaks softly at first because the old gods were loud. Your type will not vanish. It will evolve. What used to pull you into punishment will begin to point you toward practice. The decisive will attract you to your own decision-making. The tender will help you admit your helplessness when it is not cowardice but truth. The playful will remind you that adulthood without delight is a rehearsal for regret. The intense will teach you to attend deeply without melodrama. You will still feel the old ache near certain people. You will feel it and choose differently. Choosing differently will feel like walking past a familiar bakery when you're starving. Then you'll remember you learned to cook. Do not wait for perfect clarity. Clarity grows in motion. Say yes to a value, not a fantasy. Kindness, accountability, humor, repair. Say no to a behavior, not a lineage. Contempt, avoidance, cruelty, denial. Ask better questions on dates. What does a good apology sound like to you? How do you like to be comforted? What does saying no cost you? When were you last wrong in a way you're proud of? Ask yourself better questions before dates. What part of me is making this plan? Which of my ghosts is hungry right now? Practice love as attention, not anesthesia. Use sensation as data. Tight jaw means I'm hiding. Fluttering stomach means intensity, not necessarily goodness. A sudden urge to confess everything means a boundary needed. A sudden urge to disappear means an old alarm. Bring the data home. Write, walk, breathe. Call the friend who doesn't collude. Go slower than the movie in your head, faster than the habits that keep you numb. Slowness is not punishment. It is how you let reality catch up to your wish. Choose one ritual to make the unconscious your collaborator, not your saboteur. Sit with your dreams like letters from a city where you also live at night. Draw the inner figures. Give the rescuer a day off. Send the tyrant to the gym to lift something that isn't you. Light a candle for the version of you that kept going when the house was cold. Thank them, then tell them you are remodeling. Place a chair at your table for the opposite you refuse. Let the opposite speak. Anger that protects, need that honors, solitude that heals, desire that doesn't devour. This is the Koniamshio practiced in a kitchen. When the past calls, answer with a new voice. If the phantom texts at midnight, reply at noon or not at all. If the monarch commands, negotiate or leave. If the poet drones, throw a rope, not your body. If you confuse ease with boredom, add art, not drama. If you confuse mystery with inconsistency, look at a tree at dawn mysterious, consistent. There are endless substitutions that do not betray your appetite for wonder. They simply stop feeding it poison. The most radical sentence you will say to your pattern is not no. It is I want something else. No is a door closing. I want is a door opening. Name the else with the humility of someone who is still learning the language of peace. You might not be eloquent. You might sound like a child. Good. Children are honest. I want to be loved where I do not have to disappear. I want to be interesting to myself without catastrophe. I want conflict that becomes intimacy rather than evidence. I want long mornings where I am not translating. These wants rebuild architecture. This is not a romance with perfection. You will still pick fights you didn't mean to pick. You will still feel the urge to send the text that keeps you small. You will still flirt with neon. You will lose some days and win others. But a new weather will gather. People who would have bewildered you will start to make sense. People you used to worship will step down from the altar and reveal their very human feet. You will notice the rare ones who can hold their projections with curiosity and recall them with grace. You will want to be one of them more than you want to be anyone's exception. Consider the possibility that your next great love is not a person but a posture. Toward yourself, toward the future, toward the people you elect into your daily life. From that posture, you will be available to a partner in a way your type never allowed. From that posture, you will confuse fewer people for your medicine. From that posture, love might be quieter and more terrifying because it does not promise to keep you asleep. It will ask you to wake up every day and choose. It will ask you to be a home, not to hunt one. Stand at a window on an ordinary morning. Watch the light move across a table you have cleared. Hear the city or the field or the house breathe. Feel your own breath. Somewhere inside, a pattern knocks politely. You do not have to let it run the kitchen. You can set a place for it and feed it better food. You can listen and decline. You can bless and release. You can wait. You can walk to the door when a different knock sounds, the one that is softer, that does not flatter you, that does not demand an altar. Open it. See who's there. It might be a person. It might be a life. If this opened your eyes, subscribe to Boring History, because the truth is never boring.